Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast number 237. It's Friday again, so we've had another great week. Ready for a weekend of playing guitar and being awesome. I couldn't even keep it straight. Being awesome. All right. All right. Thank you guys for joining me live. I appreciate it. And if you're new to the show and you want to ask a question, please direct the question mark first, or if you want to start a subject so I know it's directed towards me, you can also super chat. Either way, I try to get to as many of those as I can, either direction. And also, what else? That's it. Oh, we have some exciting stuff today, as I think we have every day, which is we have some giveaways. We have multiple giveaways today. One of them's pretty big and one of them's pretty cool. So I guess they're both pretty cool in that logic. I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to be like, yes, giveaways. Oh, I need an echo machine. Giveaway. Hey. Lifetime giveaway. Way. So we'll get to that, I promise. One will give away in real time and one will be given away next weekend. Well, next week when we do the show. Brendan says, hey, I love that Parker Fly. Me too, Brendan. Me too. There you go. It's beautiful. Just pops, doesn't it? Had to put it on the stand today. That was definitely like a, what should I put there? And I'm like, oh, got to get the Parker out. So Peter wants to know if it was shipped to Canada. One yes and one no. So there you go. Some good news. One of these giveaways, the one I do today, will be international giveaway. And one will unfortunately be not. So there you go. We're going to be doing lots of giveaways on the channel over the next year, but I wanted to really focus as much of them this fourth quarter, which is, the October, November, December, because of the fact that it's the holiday time. So who doesn't want to get a cool stuff, especially when sometimes your budget is wrapped in doing things for others. Maybe it'd be nice to get a little treat for yourself. So let's see. I got a question. I'm going to do some early questions. One is from the Nick something. Says, what's the deal with the noise from the effects loop? And my MT15 hisses a bit. I've swapped everything, and is there any fix for that? I have an MT15 and mine does not hiss through the effects loop. The Archon used to. There was a fix for the Archon when they had the issue. My guess is the reason it's hissing is because there's some kind of buffered or pedal in that effects loop. You're using some kind of buffered pedal or something that's pushing that signal really strong. That could be causing the hiss. I don't think it's a tube issue. So I don't know if there was an issue, if you have like one of the first editions, if that was an issue, but I don't have an issue with mine on the MT15. On the Archon, I did. I no longer have an Archon, but when I did have an issue with mine hissing on the first one I had, not the second one. So there you go. The fix would be you could use a volume pedal in the effects loop and maybe cut that signal. It's that signal being so strong. So something to think about. If you could do that, or you could contact PRS and see if they have a fix or workaround for it. Okay. Okay, Mark says Reverb. I think he means the effect, not the selling platform. Just basic information. I'm a bit overwhelmed with the products in the market. Yes, there's why all these YouTube channels exist now, is because there's just too many choices. There's so much choices. It's not like I can't find any good stuff. It's like everywhere's good stuff. Here's what I will give you, Mark, is the best advice for reverb. I would definitely try to determine what kind of reverb you like, whether it's a hall reverb, a plate, or a spring. There's other kinds of reverbs, but I really find that most players kind of gravitate towards those things. Plate, hall, or spring. That's a pretty straightforward thing to figure out. You can always get a pedal that does all three. I think if I was going to recommend like a basic reverb that I think is really good, is the Hall of Fame from TC Electronics. Whether you get the small one or the bigger one, although I would look at the bigger one if you don't want to plug the small one into a computer or do any of that kind of crap. But or your tone prints from your phone and stuff. But Hall of Fame, pick one up used reverb. It's fantastic reverb. And I hope that's right. Is the Hall of Fame the delay or the reverb? Now I got to look. Because now, hold on. I'm pretty sure I am right. But just to be sure. Hold on. Yep, Hall of Fame. They make a Hall of Fame 2. I don't like the 2 as much as the first one, but either one's fine. The 2 has this expression plunger thing that I could care less about. But Mark, trust me, if you get the Hall of Fame reverb and you can't find a decent reverb out of that, you don't like reverb, buddy. You're okay. And I think it will have everything you want in the world. And it's a dial. You just turn the selection to what you like, and when you hear what you like, stop. That's a great reverb pedal. I don't think you can go wrong. And you can get really good deals on them. Look around cheap, especially if I would definitely look at Guitar Center used or music stores. People who sell theirs used tend to like, hey, I paid $170 and you can have it for $140. But a lot of times used stores, man, $79, score that pedal, no problem. Like I said, straightforward pedal, easy, and that will help you decide what kind of reverb you like. You know what I mean? Which one you like. Let's see. Vapier Guitar says, do you answer any of your messages or emails? That depends on how you look at that. It says trying to give you some business. Yes, I have currently, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm like everybody else. I get to, most of you guys that get responses from me, you get them about a week to 2 weeks after you sent them. And again, it's from just, I go in order of what I can get through. It's the downfall of this YouTube arena is that, it's not like you're legitimately famous so that you have an assistant or have somebody helping me go through this stuff or anybody kind of like here, it's just literally I have to read these one by one and go through them and respond to them. And a lot of times if the question's too complicated for an easy response, I like kind of park it and go, okay, I'll come back to it. I know you guys keep hearing this from all these channels all the time. Like, hey, I can't get to all my comments and questions and emails and stuff. You just can't. It's physically impossible. The size is astronomical. But I do try. Like I said, I put a full 8-hour work day, 8 hours a week into just responding to emails a week. May not sound like a big deal, but it's a lot. It's a lot of hours a week in responding. So if I will always try, for sure. And even if it's business, sometimes, like I said, it's opportunities. I lose out on opportunities all the time because I can't get to them. So there you go. But I will look for yours now that you said something and see if I can kind of prompt it this afternoon. Okay, I do have some early questions I want to get to. I always kind of grab the questions before the show starts, see what you guys are talking about, and I have it right here. The first question of the day was, I have no idea how to read this. I'm going to read it. I'm going to go, ready? Phil, what would be the emotional, political, already scary, and social ramifications of getting rid of my 19 guitars and starting over? I don't know. Your guitar's political? Okay, ready. 6 years ago, I owned 3 guitars. Okay, I blame KYG. Aren't you the one who says there's always a guitar? No, that's definitely not me that says there's always a guitar. Like always another guitar? Maybe I said it once, but it's not something I firmly believe in. There's no ramifications. Here's the easy part. Nothing. None. You could totally go down. If you sold all 19 guitars and started over again, the only ramifications was you're going to be paying more for any guitar you buy going forward. So in that note, financially, it wouldn't be awesome. It would be expensive. And if you buy any of those guitars again, that would suck. But no, it's a question that comes up all the time about getting rid of, hey, I'm going to get rid of all my stuff and start over. It's up to you guys. It's up to you to do that stuff. I find it depends on how you think of this stuff. How I think of this stuff is, like I said over and over again, I do not literally go, okay, every day I play something different. I'm not looking for things for different sounds. Like I told you guys this before, my YouTube channel, and I always say this over and over again, my YouTube channel creates an environment that wouldn't exist without it. In other words, there's a lot of things that I show you guys or I have and I use all the time that essentially, if I stop making demonstration review videos tomorrow, that stuff would all be gone the day after. Like there's no reason to have it laying around or have it at all. And then I would go back to what my core, like what I use all the time for guitars, amps, and pedals, what I use. That being said, I don't really use a whole lot of products like, oh, this is my this tone, this is my that tone. In other words, I don't like have a, this amp's really for metal and this amp's really for blues. I really have a, this is the amp I use, and then one day I plug into it and it just doesn't do anything for me, so then I switch to a different amp and then I'm in a mood. So I'm always in a favorites category. I always have an amp or a guitar or a pedal that's my favorite. It could be daily, it could be weekly, monthly, yearly, but there's turns. Like a lot of you guys keep pointing out that I keep playing the SG, which I have next to me right here, this SG. Yeah, I keep playing it. Why? I don't know. You guys like, is it magic? Is it great? I don't know. I just started playing it and then watching a couple months or weeks or days or whatever. You guys won't see it for months or days or years, and I'll be on to something else. I'll play something else. But it's not always something new. Sometimes it's just something old. I just grab it and start playing it. So I don't think there's any ramifications to getting rid of stuff. I get rid of stuff all the time. I very rarely come to, you know, any kind of negative of that, other than, like I said, never get rid of anything you think you might buy again, because it will cost you more the second time. Okay. Oh, I saw a great. I always like questions like, I apologize. Oh, it's let's see. Hold on, I'm just looking for stuff. Mike from Oregon says, Phil, with 6,000 question marks in front of it, what's your opinion on the Engl Ironball worth $700 used? They were getting like 6 for those. Now they're up to 7. That makes sense. I have the Ironball SE, which I did a video, which is basically the same amp, just the Ironball SE has all the super duper like delays and reverbs and all that stuff. And it's a legit amp. Like I said, I would definitely put that amp against anything in the market for how it sounds and does, you know, what it does. So yeah, $700 used. Sure. It's made in Germany. It's built really well. It's got a good clean channel. It's got a good gain channel. I like it. I like it a lot. So yeah. I would also poke around for them. Sometimes you see them for less than that. Okay. Next question is, can I still get a guitar stand? Are you talking about the KYG stands, I assume? You cannot. We had 100 limited edition stands. Whoops. I think I never got the official number. I asked my wife. I think they actually ended up making, I want to say 107, but I think she told me there was actually 102 made. So I say there's 100 limited edition ones, but obviously one was a prototype. That would be the 101. And then I sent 2 out promotionally. And so we didn't want to count that against the numbers. So they're done now. We're not going to do that again anytime soon that I know of. However, you can still buy those zither stands. They just don't have the Know Your Year logo. We have talked, my wife and I, not with zither, about doing a non-limited edition stand with this different kind of logo and make that available to you guys. But I don't know. Like I said, I know it sounds crazy, but it's like more stuff to do all the time. Next question is, hey, you never talk about MIDI guitar. What's your views? I've tried it years ago. Very cool. MIDI guitar is that thing that reminds me that I'm dumb. MIDI guitar, I throw that up there with the Axe Effects system where I'm like, very cool. Actually, you know, dumb is probably not even fair. Not even to me, it's not fair. Here's what I want to say. What's it? What is it? I want to say OCD, but that's not what it is. What do you call it? ADD. That's what those products remind me, like, are make me think maybe I have ADD. Maybe I'm undiagnosed ADD. undiagnosed. Maybe I'm like, because I sit down with that stuff and sometimes I'm like, I don't know, this is too much. But I like MIDI as a concept. I just don't have the attention span for it. I've used different ones and I love what you can do with it. Again, to me, this is all like a tool and all these tools, and there's a ton of uses for them. I think for MIDI, to me, that's what I liked about the Line 6 Variax guitar and the idea that it's kind of the very easy version of that, MIDI concept, but it doesn't have all the features. Trust me, if I could get into MIDI, I would definitely get like one of the Godans that have the multi-act with the MIDI and do all kinds of cool stuff. I have well intentions. I think, this is also something to point out. I have bought too many of those kind of products in the past. Like I said, I'll use the Axe-Fx as a perfect example. I had an Axe-Fx here at the house for 7 months, maybe a little longer. It was sent to me, and I had well intentions. I sat with it, and I did this stuff with it, and then then I did some more, you know what I mean? And then basically over time, I realized like, oh, it's been 5 months, and I really should use that. And then eventually I'm like, okay. And then like, so what'd you think? And I'm like, oh, it has to go back. So same thing with MIDI. It's just not, it doesn't grab it. I don't have any desire to do it. So I'm just too straightforward. Like 2 knobs is enough knobs. So there you go. Okay. But, I say that, I don't know why I'm just going to say this, but it makes sense to me to say it right now, just so I don't have vein. If I was a successful musician of some sort and I had like a person that I said, hey, program that up, that's what I would do. So yeah, then I would have MIDI and Axe-Fx and all kinds of cool things. I'd be like, yes, program that stuff up. This is what I want. Sometimes I see videos. That's what made me think of this. Sometimes I see videos of these guitar players and they're like, I don't know, my tech does that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I would do. I would just have somebody do it. Hold on. I'm trying to understand the question. Phil, are there as many Magic amps as there are Magic guitars? I take that question as, or that subject as, sometimes guitars are referred to as Magic because they have something like special. They feel like the tone, the way they play something about them is different, exciting than another one just like it. Strats are notorious for this, and the idea that this Strat sings a different way than other Strats. You know what I mean? The notes kind of come out of it a lot differently and kind of fuller, better. Sure, amps are like that too. I would take it further and say there's tubes like that. In other words, I've had this experience very few times in my life, but I have had it where I had an amp, I loved it, years and years go by, blow a tube, usually a power tube, preamp tubes, not as much. I don't think I've ever actually had that problem, but I had it happen with an amp with power tubes. In that case, the power tubes had to be removed, new ones biased. The amp never felt and sounded the same. Now, it could be because I had a little gap in time and then I got it back and maybe, I don't know, maybe something changed, but it just never felt the same. Which is why it's actually happened to me twice in my life, so you know. And so to the point where if one of my amps that I love now blew some tubes and I had to take it in for service, I would probably already be prepared to sell it once I get it back. Just from, pessimism. Okay. All right. Let me jump around here. I still have some pre-show questions. Okay, hold on a second. This one was a good question I grabbed. It says, is there a better way to support a company through their... Is it better? Not is it. Is it? Is it better to support a company through their own website or buy through Sweetwater, Chicago Music Exchange, eBay, so on and so on, through dealer networks? This question I like because this really comes down to companies are now selling direct to us. So the question is, is it better to buy direct from them or buy from the dealers? In my personal opinion, obviously, is this. And it's a weird tirade to have, but I'm going to give it to you. I really have very few things that really get under my skin and irritate me. One of the things that gets under my skin that irritates me is when I go to the grocery store, and again, people are from different places, so let me explain. My grocery store is like a lot of them in the United States now. I go to the grocery store and you go to check out, and they have self-checkout. Self-checkout irritates me. The reason is because I don't get any of the service. There's no way to bag my groceries. There's not a person, a cashier to talk to for a minute or ask a question. There's no service, and I have to pay the same amount. It irritates me. It irritates me sitting in the self-checkout when I'm standing there. In fact, I always get a little, not grumpy, but you can tell I have some kind of chip on my shoulder. And the reason is because I'm sitting there, sometimes, you're forced, at like Target's good for this. You go and they've shut down all the registers and now you just do self-checkout. And my irritation comes from basically a couple things. First, why am I helping them put a person out of work when they're not even giving me anything for it? First of all, I don't like the idea of putting anybody out of work or hurting anyone's livelihood. That's the first thing that irritates me. But the second thing is I'm doing this without any benefit to the customer. In other words, there's no cost savings to me. Remember when there was, now, of course, New Jersey and a couple states where they still have it probably don't understand this, but do you guys remember self-service, right? And full service gas stations? You go to the gas station and of course the full service went away. However, in this case, I'm like, that's how I look at the grocery store. I would pay. I'm serious. I honestly, God, I would pay. If they charged me, a couple bucks or a little bit more for my groceries to go through the non-self checkout, I would do it. Some of you guys wouldn't. So you'll be in the self checkout. That's fine. Why does it all connect about, I'm talking about with direct sales to customers? Exactly that. If the manufacturer wants to sell direct to me, that's great. But why do I have to pay the same price as a retailer, even though the retailer is supposed to give added value, which is services? A lot of times, a lot of you have experienced this. Fender is probably, to me, the biggest culprit to talk about. Their customer service for their website is not great. And some of you guys are going to say things like, that's fine. You're going to say things like, no, I bought online direct from Fender and it was great. Well, I've also done it. Friends of mine have done it. And ultimately, either your best experience is they shipped it, it showed up, and there was no issues. But as soon as you have an issue, talking to them, it's not like they're difficult by nature. It's not like they're hard to deal with or they have attitudes. They're just not set up for it. So refunds take forever. Exchanges take a long time. Issues are hard to deal with because they're not really conditioned and set up that way. So what I'm pointing out to you is it better is it better for who is the question? It's better for the manufacturer to buy direct because they get to keep 30 to 40% margin in their pocket. However, my question is, what do I, as the consumer, get for that? I get to help put the mom and pop out of business. Again, back to the cashier thing. Great, I'm self-checking out. I don't get any benefit from it. I'm just hurting this other person financially. I'm not getting the service. And I'm not supporting my local economy. Chicago Music Exchange example, if you live in Chicago, right? I don't know what's Sweetwater. Hey, if you live in Indiana, helping your economy. So the question I like about this is, I think it's an honest question that says, hey, is it better to support them by giving them the margin? It is. But what I want to tell you on this question is, although that's a great question, here's another question to add to that. But what's good for you, the consumer? I think, like I said, I remember about a year and a half ago, I talked about on the podcast Behringer, and Behringer made the decision to cut off all the mom and pop stores, all the dealers, which they did, and sell direct and only allow 4 key partners, which ended up being AliExpress, Amazon, Tolman, and Sweetwater. There might be another one in there. I don't know, but those are the 4 that I think I remember. And I said, they also decided to drop the prices about 10% across the board. Again, giving us the value of, okay, we're not going to have a middleman, so to speak, but we're going to cut you in on the deal. There is a benefit to us in that we get a discount. There's also a lack of a benefit in the idea that now your local mom and pop store or your local business, you can't buy Behringer there and support your local economy. So there is a double-edged sword here that we have to consider. And again, I'm not here to villainize an idea. It's really just discuss the idea, okay? I don't have the answers, but I do know that we should be talking about this. So the $1 million question really comes down to is what what's good for the consumer is usually good for the business, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So if it's good for you, then maybe you should go to that. But a lot of these ideas are not good for you. Like I said, buying direct from the manufacturer. And so, you know, because like I said, I like to be very upfront. I do a lot of consulting for a lot of companies, and I tell them the exact opposite of what I'm telling you. I tell them to do direct. In fact, I've pushed as many companies when I've talked to them to going direct as possible. Why? Because I'm being paid to help them, and it does help them. That's why I tell them. Here, I'm sponsored by the patrons and you guys. So you're asking me what's good for you. I think what's good for you is to not buy direct from the manufacturers. It sounds like a conflict because it is, but it's honest. It's an honest answer. So I would buy from my local businesses or businesses I trust first, especially if I'm not having to pay extra. There's added value that's just given to you there. That's just my opinion on that. I did a video, if you guys recall, it pissed Fender off on an epic level. And one of the main reasons I decided I did not want to have a store and a YouTube channel at the same time, which is when I did a video called, I don't know, it's still up. I forget what the actual title, apologize, you know, I have 800 videos now. The video was basically, I bought a guitar direct from Fender and I bought a guitar from Sweetwater and I compared them, okay? And in this particular situation, as you guys know, the Sweetwater guitar performed better. Same guitar, bought them. The Sweetwater guitar was better. Why? Because they looked like they checked it. The Fender guitar did not get checked. Obviously, it pissed Fender off because if you guys don't know this, the video was taken down. Fender asked me to take the video down. A representative from Fender asked me to take down the video. And I did what I would probably do now, as I said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. However, it was presented to me that as a dealer, I was contractually obligated to do that. So I did. And then I stopped going to my store. It literally happened that fast. Then I think probably if you guys follow the timeline, like right after that, it was like, hey, I'm not doing my store anymore. I'm just doing YouTube. So anyway, so back to this thing. And that was the discussion then as well. What did Sweetwater give me for the same price? They gave me added value of their customer service. They gave me some free candy. It sounds stupid, but it's not, because again, it's added value. So Chris says, hey, I remember that video. Yeah, you know what's funny is that video was going viral. That video probably would have done 1 million views. It was going viral when they had me take it down. And then it went back up, and I don't know if it did really well after that. I just remember my wife told me this. This is recently. My wife told me that's the most pissed off she's ever seen me probably in my life. I remember when Fender called me, I was at a parent-teacher conference at my daughter's school. And I remember screaming, I'm not exaggerating, in the hallway of my daughter's school that I was at my daughter's school at a parent-teacher conference, and they're on my time, and why are they calling me my YouTube video? Because my YouTube videos weren't connected to my store, as you guys know. I had a store. I was making YouTube videos. In my mind, they were separate. They weren't like the other channels that have, you know, YouTube videos in their stores. I was doing it separate. And I remember just being so freaking pissed to the point where I wouldn't talk about it for years. So now I just talked about it again. So it's all therapy for me too. But anyways, back to the importance of this is buying direct. Sure, why not? But if you can buy and support your local economies or other businesses for the same price and get added value, I'd do that. Terrell says, I love Fender guitars. I do not love the company. Yeah, here's the problem. Fender, when I say Fender, I'll be very clear. It was people at Fender. Fender is, businesses are people. Those people, well, I can tell you right now, one of them in particular, doesn't work at Fender anymore. I didn't have anything to do with that, of course, but they don't work there anymore. So maybe in today's regime of Fender, that I wouldn't get any grief. Who knows? I don't know. I just know they were pissed then. But the internet was really silly enough. Even though when I started making videos back in like 2016 and stuff, and 2017 was when I kind of really pushed on it. 2016, 2017. Although YouTube been around since what? 2000. When did it come out? 2008? Something like that. I mean, it had been around for almost 10 years. But our industry was like, what's YouTube? That's what kind of made me start going, maybe I should do some YouTube videos. Even though it seems like it's been around for a decade, this industry just like discovered it. Sounds. And then says, this is Kowal Guitar says, sounds like they had a reason to be mad about that. It's a pretty shitty thing to do. You know, what's funny about that is, I disagree first, but mostly why I disagree is that's the theme I've been pushing for since I've been on YouTube, which is I can't control the environment. I just can't. A product gets sent to me. It's defective. It's not defective. I can only tell you what I see. If I buy a product, I can only tell you about my experience. You can only really share experiences. The whole point of YouTube or this social media market, this live show every week, is to talk and share experiences. You know what I mean? And so when I have an experience, I just share that experience. I always find it funny when you have a good experience, you're lying. When you have a bad experience, you're mad or you're vindictive, or there's some kind of there's always some kind of negative connotation, which always cracks me up because I'll even redo it, not redo the video, but I'll even do it again. Like I said, that experience with Sweetwater was positive, but I bought another product from Sweetwater. That experience was negative. Somebody points out, why are you being negative to Sweetwater on the next video? I'm like, well, I wasn't. I was just, this was this experience. I'm just going to share the one experience with you guys that I had. With Fender, I didn't understand. So, you know, YouTube was too new to me. The whole world was too new to me. I didn't understand at that time. They had no way to stop me. And there was no reason to stop me from taking the video. And to be honest with you, I bet you the executives or anybody at Fender higher up didn't even see the video or care. It was just really the sales side of Fender that was pissed off. Does that make sense? Fender was in a position because they just started selling direct. So I think they just didn't want the negative energy out there of that. But I didn't know what I know now, which is, you know, when you make these videos, you just make them and you put them out and you leave them for people and let the people decide what it is. So there you go. That's why I did it. I don't really understand. There's a question I don't understand. I'm sorry I'm taking so long. I'm just reading questions. Chris says, Fender's QC is way better than Gibson. Sure, I can see that. That would be my experience too. Like I said, I think Fender does most things the best. I've always felt that way. I think they have one of the best cultures out there of their internal and their companies. And again, just because you critique one thing about something doesn't mean all of it sucks. That's the energy the internet loves. You're like, hey, I love it. It's great. I wish it was $10 cheaper. Like, see, he hates it. You're like, I guess. I don't know. That was just one thing. Okay. Alex2112, nice, says, hey, Phil, what do you think of the Hughes & Kettner amp behind you? There's a Hughes & Kettner amp behind? Holy crap, there is. This is a Two Meister 5. I love it. I absolutely love this amp. I put a link just so in case it came up, because obviously it's in the background. It was used. In fact, let me click it. Let me make sure I did. I did. This amp, I put a link to the song this amp was used in, not this exact one, but this model. It's a really cool amp. In fact, when I was in Germany hanging out with the Hughes & Kettner guys, Richard Morgan, who's used to work for Hughes & Kettner, and now he works for Thomas Belug, has his own YouTube channel. It's a very good YouTube channel, so check it out. Richard is probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met, super intelligent. And when I was in Germany, we were discussing amps and stuff. And in this discussion, he brought up that there's this artist named Steven Wilson, and he recorded this album called To the Bone. And on the album, I put the link to the song, which I can't remember, something about Eat the Darkness or something like that. And that artist used the Two Meister 5-watt amplifier. And he was explaining that I guess it's a really cool, kind of like piece of gear. And I'd seen them dirt cheap for years. I never really gave it a shot, never tried it. And I finally, I don't know what made me do it. Even though they spiked in price, I think they were really high at some point at $400 is the high. They spiked in price and I decided for some reason to buy one. And I got it. And it's a really cool amp. It's not like the other two Meisters, okay? And I've had this experience before. You've heard me talk about the Blackstar 1 watt amp and how much I like that way more than the Blackstar 5 and the 20 watt amp. It's like its own little thing, even though it's part of the same series. I feel this way about the 2 Meister. I think the 2 Meister 18, the 40, they're great amps. This is its own thing. Yeah, Kevin's like, Steven Wilson is not just an artist. I know, he was in Porcupine Tree, right? Anyways, the importance of this is, yeah, Porcupine Tree, right? That's what I thought I understood. So, yeah, he is awesome. Oh, you guys are like, I know, I'm just trying to get to the point of the amp. The artist, of course, is fantastic. But the point is that this amp is a 2-channel amp, but it shares the EQ and the gain and the volume. And in the back, it has the Redbox DI. And it also has a button in the back that lets you kind of put a load against it so you have no sound. And, you know what? I can show you guys. How about this? Oops, I turned off my mic. Let me do this real quick. Let me show you. Let me find a pic. What I use it for. And this is why I like it. So right now, what you're going to hear is this amp. The way I use it for this is from my personal, the non-YouTube world. Right now, this amp is not plugged into this cabinet that you see. It is actually plugged into my 2 Notes Cab M, and then it's direct into my interface. And I have my SG right here. Okay. And okay, you guys will hear it. Let me go ahead. I'll stop talking and play. Hold on. Okay, so what you're hearing is that amp plugged right into the Cab M, and that's it. Okay, and so for me, what I love about it, Gone Fall says it sounds incredible. It's. I was talking about this amp last week because although I love like my Dirty Shirley and my Small Box and the Marshalls, what I found was this amp can it warms up. It does the exact opposite of what usually the HK is for, which is they kind of have a little top and fizz. I'm not running the gain really hard. I'm running the gain about 12 o'clock, and they usually are a little bright. And what's funny is running through the cabin right now, I have the treble on this at like 80%, which is not normal. But there's something about this amp and the way it's almost like a beautiful tube preamp. And that's why I told you guys, I'm not making this up. Where's the other one? Yeah, I bought a second one because I wanted to have 2 of them before I told anybody about it. Because the fact that, there's not a lot. I'm not worried about the prices going up, but I think there was like 4 or 5 in the market. I don't recommend this amp highly to you guys. I think, like I said, if you're looking for something like what I'm using it for, is something like a direct recording or a light, quiet amp. It's really quiet. There's no effects loop. So the effects are coming from the fact that it's in the 2 notes. But man, it's a cool amp. I really, really, really dig it. And I have a lot of fun. And I really wish I bought one when they were $250. That would be my best advice to you guys. If you ever walk in a music store and you see one of those dirt cheap and you think you might use it for direct recording, I think it's cool. It's probably my favorite direct recording amp I've ever used. So, cheers to that. Hold on. I need to get to some questions. Steven wants to know, is the SG neck heavy? It is a little neck heavy. I have a couple SGs. This one is the most neck heavy of the three that I own. This one has the Grover tuners, and that's pretty much why. I told myself, these are lockers. I told myself I was going to take them off and put lighter tuning keys on it, like hip shots, and just too lazy. Just didn't do it. But that's what makes it pretty much top heavy. I have the exact same amp, I have the exact same SG in a different color, and it has Kluson keys, and it's not top heavy, even though it's almost exactly the same weight. Brown Fox says, direct recording amps, ? Why not use plugins at that point? I have plugins, but let me tell you, it's not about the sound. I can use plugins all day long. There's something about the way a note hangs around. It's really tough for me. To the point where, trying to say it best, to the point where if your amp, I've learned a couple things about amps over the years, trying so many amps. When an amp is really good, I mean, it's really good. Doesn't need reverb. When an amp really sustains and it has a lot of just not volume, but just when it has that kind of tone and magic, doesn't need delay. Now, I was running delay on this and stuff, but I don't need to. Like I said, it's just the way it kind of feels. It just feels different, and it sounds a little, and that makes me play a little different. So before I was using this, what I was doing was plugins, but what I was doing was I was hearing one thing. So in other words, I recorded this way for years. I hear the real amp, and then I run a line in, and then plugins are what the recording would hear. You know what I mean? And I would kind of go, okay, that's how I'm going to record this for this song. I'm going to make the plugins the tone, and then I'll have the real amp in the room. Because keep in mind, even though, like I said, this is direct recorded right now, you were hearing a direct recording. I was hearing the real amp. That's why I needed that's why I muted my internal mic that you see right here, because otherwise you would actually hear. So this is what I hear, which is different. You're going to hear a lot of string noise because the guitar is very close to the mic. Versus this. And that's back to the room mic again. So I have, because remember, I don't use headphones. I've tried. I can't do it, man. I say I don't, but I just don't use them very often. I'm not a big headphones person. So direct recording, I don't use headphones. I get what, I've heard this before from professional musicians I've talked to. I get also what's called studio monitor fatigue. Believe it or not, I guess that's a real thing. I didn't know it. I was talking one day to a professional sound engineer, producer, and they were saying, well, when you play, do you ever, when you're playing direct and stuff, do you use the monitors? And I'm like, yeah, I do. But over time, and I was explaining what I hear that I have a problem with, and they said, oh, yeah, you get fatigue from the monitors sometimes. And they were saying that you can pick better monitors and do all kinds of things like that. I currently have like 3 different sets of monitors right now I'm testing and going through, but I'm still having about the same problem, which is I get a good sound, and then like I said, it just, over time, it kind of wears on me. You know what I mean? So I like to have, I'm going to keep saying, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I like to have an actual speaker in the room. An actual guitar speaker. So, yeah. And like I said, it's fun. I'm having fun with it. And then Gon says, solid state amps, I'm sure, have less feeling in the tone, good tone, less feeling. This could be true. I found, like I said, I really, really believe this. I believe that, some stuff just speaks to you and it just works with you in a certain way. And sometimes there's solid state amps I like better than tube amps. There's tube amps I like better than solid state amps. You know what I mean? It just depends. It's really tricky. But yes, generally speaking, tube amps have a different feel to them in the way that, you react to it. They sound more compressed to me than solid state amps. And some people describe it differently than that. And, but I say compressed because I think a compression is sustain. Again, tube amps to me just have a lot of, like, the note hangs around. And I've done videos over the years about sustain and things that do sustain. And I always love the comments are like, who wants sustain? And I'm like, I don't know, me. I do not shred. I do not play fast. I like to play notes or chords, and I like those notes and chords to hang around to the, as long as they can. So let's go to howdy there, Phil. Howdy there, Phil. Happy Friday. What riff or lick makes my hair, he means my hair, which I don't have hair, so we don't have to worry about that, stand up on my arms? Well, good for you for pointing that out. I still have those. Gary Moore does it for me. Frank Marino, 2. Thanks. Have a good show. Who does it for me? What riff does it for me? Is it Lightworker by Neil Zaza? I think so. I think it's called Lightworker. I'm really not into that type of lick the most, but for some reason, every time I hear that opening riff, to me, Lightworker, I'm pretty sure it's Lightworker. I want to double check that. When songs are instrumentals, I never can remember the title. I apologize, but Google will help us. The song is, I would have swore is it I'm All Right? It might be I'm All Right. Again, I apologize because, like I said, it's an instrumental song. So it's either I'm All Right or Lightworker. Here's what I can tell you. If you listen to both those songs, one of them will pop out at you as being the one. It always reminded me of this kind of same thing as Cliffs of Dover. You hear it and you go, oh, man, that just sounds so cool. Why it kind of speaks to me that way is not because it's such a great riff. There's so many songs, like, great songs that have such great riffs. But it's a riff that I can't imagine even, I learned to play as best I could. And even playing it, I think, how would you think this up? This just sounds like one of those things, like, just, I don't know how you come up with something like that. It was so cool and melodic. Matthew says, when installing humbuckers, do I prefer the steel braided 1 lead wire or the more modern 4 lead wire? What about when making your own pickups? When I started doing the humbuckers, I was using the braided wire pickups because I don't usually coil split the bridge pickup. That was logical for me. And then if a customer requested a 4 lead wire on the neck pickup, I would do that. I slowly gave in to, like everybody who makes anything for customers, I gave in to the customers, which is the smart thing to do, and started making 4 lead wires for everything for all humbuckers. So I don't have a preference. I didn't have a reason for doing that. One of the things I like about the braided wire pickups is that they're insulated better. You know what I mean? That wire braiding around that ground insulates the wire better, in my opinion, than the foil they wrap around the 4 lead sometimes. So a lot of people talk about, whether you shield the cavities on humbuckers or not. In most cases, I don't think you have to. I think you can get away with it as much as anybody else. Although every once in a while you will get humbuckers and you will get some noise coming through. And so if you can shield the cavity as well. But I found that a lot of times that always happens to pickups that are using the 4 leads because, like I said, they just wrap that little piece of foil around the wires, and the insulation is not as, in my opinion, not as good as the braided. So that's why I stick to the braided more. But I don't even do braided wire pickups anymore, just because I had to pick a lane, and everybody was asking for 4 leads, so I do them. So that's it. But so that's why I use 4 lead, and then why I always like the braided better. But there was no like it sounded better, and it wasn't like it was easier, because the braiding's pain in the ass. If somebody who's done it, I hate it. You do the twist and try to solder it to the, it's just a pain in the ass. But like I said, I think it insulates it better, shields it better. Okay, so how can I tell if hardware is chrome or nickel? Okay, so he wants to match his current hardware Do you have any experience with D'Addario Auto trim tuners? Yes, lots of experience with those. I'm not a huge fan of them, although I wouldn't like, I have a guitar with them on there. That's how it came new with those on there. I fine by that, but I didn't find it to be a miracle by any means. I didn't go like, oh, every guitar needs these now. They're very cool. If you need locking tuners, I would put them up there in the top 10 locking tuners to add to your guitars, but there's just nothing about them that makes me want to put them on all my guitars. And there's nothing that makes me want to take them off my guitars. That being said, your chrome versus nickel. Well, I could just tell you, obviously the chrome is brighter than the nickel, but one thing I can tell you that helps is it's easy to find chrome. So this is what I would do, and I'm just pulling this out of my head. I would find something is chrome. I'm like looking around my room. I mean, there's tons of things that you can find, like that's chrome for sure. Like find something is chrome and then just hold that against your hardware, and the nickel will be obviously a little darker. Nickel hardware tends to have a not the glassy mirror sheen that chrome does. I mean, I prefer nickel to chrome, but I agree with you. When people mix it up, it really pops. I can't stand it. It just seems out of whack to me that, one's like a mirror and then one's just this, not that shiny look. Yeah, and a lot of people are giving you suggestions too about hard silver look versus warmer look, and those are all great too. But like I said, all those suggestions will probably work really good. But if you're nervous, I would just find something that's chrome for sure and just hold it against there. Hi Phil, bought a new Squier Tele Deluxe 70s, needs a setup, nut cut also, high B and G strings, the highest 2 frets need leveling, low action kills notes. Okay. So the nut was cut too high, which is good, because if they're cut too shallow, you can always make them deeper. So I think you're just telling me that, right? It's good to know. Ibanez Prestige Boy, who doesn't like Ibanez's and only likes Jackson, says, best way to fix high fret without a file, only sandpaper. I have a video. It's basically it's the slick guitar, the surf green one in there. I do take care of a fret. I level and crown a couple frets using essentially sandpaper. What I would do is watch that video or any other videos on that issue. And what I would use, if I didn't have any files or anything and I wanted to take a fret down, what I would do is use 400 grit sandpaper and steel wool. And then, like I said, get some masking or painter's tape and paint up the pickups, or get some masking tape and paint. No, I'm just kidding. Get some masking tape or painter's tape up the pickups, and so that the none of the steel wool gets on the pickups. That's what I would use. Super easy. And then I always love suggesting steel wool. It's my favorite thing in the world to suggest now, because whenever I suggest it, I'm going to get 10 people telling you in the comments never to use it. Although I use it, I've used it for decades, and I mean everybody uses it. It's just like I said, you just got to make sure it doesn't get on your pickups. That's about the biggest issue. There's other things, and they're better, but everybody can go down. Look, you can go to the dollar store, I think. So you can go anywhere and get 400 grit sandpaper and some steel wool, and you can definitely take care of your frets. You just need to make sure you know what you're doing. Go slow. Don't move a lot of material off the fret, and you'll be fine. So, Mike, hey Phil, I have a Warmoth parts caster. Really love it. Swamp ash body, maple neck with rosewood board, JB in the bridge. Love it, but it's got very bright sounding guitar. It's a very bright sounding guitar. Any suggestions to darken the tone a little? Sure. I would imagine with the Ash and the JB to me has a lot of mids, and that's probably the culprit in that case. I would suggest this. Lower that pickup. I would probably take whatever the distance between the top of that humbucker to the bottom of your low E string, start there, but make sure it's across. Double that. So if it's, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch, go to a 1/2 inch, right? If it's a millimeter, go 2 millimeters, whatever you like to measure. Double it. And then play for a minute and see if that tame some of the highs. Of course it will, because we know it will, but I mean, see how much it tames the highs. If you find you like that, what you might be just lucky if it's not super close to the pickups, you might get just like solved, problem solved. Adjust the pickup height, great, and also make sure that the pickup's not tilted towards the high end, the treble side of the guitar. Make sure that it's more even, or even tilted a little bit more towards the bass side. Those things, adjust the pickup height. If it solves the problem, great. If it doesn't solve the problem, but you notice and it improves, then I would definitely switch the pickup to something that's lower output. That's probably what's happening. I find that, but we don't even have to talk about tone wood, just the guitar itself. Some guitars are just naturally bright sounding. Some guitars are just naturally dark sounding. It's the way that the strings resonate, and vibrate and everything. And pickups, I've said this before, pickups really do, sometimes they can clearly define and hear what the guitar sounds like and translate that. But a lot of times they just accentuate things. So if your guitar is bright, a pickup can accentuate that. If it's dark, it'll accentuate that. But a lot of times you can go the other way and get the pickups to kind of back off that. And so I would definitely see about getting a 59. That's what I would do. Seth Lover, if you're going to stay Duncan, go Seth Lover, 59 in the bridge. Do something like that. I'm sure it will have a good result if you want to stay the same brands. But that's some things you can try. See if that helps. Paul's looking for a great clean amp for home use. Princeton 68 ? That's the amp I have. It says too much bass, flubby when drive it. Yeah, well, of course. The 68 is darker and bassier and more compressed than the 65 Princeton. So if you don't like those things, definitely go towards the 65. If you like, that's if you like the brighter side. If the 65, you try the 65 and you're like, man, it's really bright and it doesn't have enough low end and it's not as compressed, like it doesn't sound as tight, then I would say the 68. The 68, that amp is essentially the modded 65. It's this, they put a Celestion in it, which obviously kind of darkens the tone a little bit. They did some modifications to the input preamp stage. And I like that amp because of that. That's what I like. But I don't have a problem getting highs out of amps. Some of you guys have the exact opposite. You can't get the amps bright enough. So I spend a lot of time because a lot of the guitars that I like by nature, look, I like a lot of light guitars, and a lot of light guitars tend to be bright. And so I'm usually trying to find a way to fix that problem. That's the whole know your gear logic, is you got to keep trying things to figure this out. You know what I mean? How do you get these things to come together? That's just what I've learned. The type of guitars I like are really bright. That Parker is bright. That Kiesel behind me is kind of bright. It's just they're brighter sounding guitars. So I like the amp to not be so bright because I find myself EQing. I don't like to EQ things out. That's another thing I don't particularly care for. So if a guitar is really bright, I don't like to take the EQ and change it out. I like the amp to be almost like, if you put all the knobs at straight up, then the amp sounds great. It's like a perfect wheel for me. So, Clown of House Cats, not clown, I always say clown. It says, do excessive scraping on the binding from the factory that get clear coated over ever affect resale value on Gibson? Long jagged marks on chunks missing. Look, we talked about it a couple weeks ago about how Gibson gets a pass. I couldn't predict that in a million years. My buddy Eric sent me a message after I did that, and he said he wanted a Les Paul Studio, so he bought one from Sweetwater. He got it, and he sent me a picture, and it had like lacquer just bubbled, just crappy all over the side of the neck. And long story short, he sent it back, got another one, and the other one was a little better, but it still had issues. And then he's like, what is with this? And I said, yeah, this is what it is. We just kind of, Gibson's ingenious. They've basically, they put out guitars that are not perfect. And you can, I love it when people are like, I don't want to buy them because they're not perfect. Well, then don't. I buy Gibsons. I do exactly what I preach exactly what I do. I complain about Gibsons and their quality, and I buy them because I like them. I I'm aware of that. I'm aware that I can buy a better, aesthetically quality looking guitar, fit and finished better. I can buy better quality type products for the money, but I buy Gibson for either the sound or the, you know, the heritage of it, all that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, either buy them, don't buy them. But yes, but I think if you want to like Gibsons, no, I don't know how I'm trying to say that. If you're going to like Gibsons, you're going to have to get used to the imperfections. It's just part of it. So it's nuts. Bill Coates 06 saying Epiphone uses poly, so they're perfect. Well, not only that, I mean, lacquer's just got issues. It's just the process. Remember, Gibson doesn't tout that they have innovated anything, right? They don't go, you know, when you go to their factory, they're like, look, we fixed it. We made it better. Look at, they're just like, look, we do a cheesecloth and we put the binding on like they used to. Again, you know, you're going to see the issues. I like to think of it this way. What I can tell you about Gibson that maybe helps, even though Gibson is mass-produced guitars, they are, in my opinion, no different aesthetically than most of the handmade guitars I've come across in my travels. You handmade guitars made by great builders. Look, there's builders. I have a cool video. Ooh, I don't even want to tell you guys. I'm really excited about it. I don't think we'll get a lot of views, but man, am I excited about this video. But there's a lot of hand builders out there that do a lot of guitars, and they're really cool. But they have mistakes. They make mistakes. And when I see Gibsons, I kind of see that. It's part of the thing. It's just part of it. Like I said, I will honestly tell you over and over again, and I've said it in so many videos, if you want a perfect Gibson looking, you just get an Epiphone. It looks better. It's fit and finished better. Brian says, once you go Gibson Custom Shop, nothing else matters. There, I said it. I don't know. I own Gibson Custom Shop, and I own Fender Custom Shop, and they're very good. But they are by far, you know what I mean? But not the best guitars I have. That's just my opinion, though. Okay. Hold on. Trying to get some non-super chats. Okay, so Jeffrey says, Phil, new guitar day earlier this week, Gibson Les Paul standard bourbon burst. I love the bourbon burst color. The neck gets sticky when playing. That's the lacquer. Any tips to fix? By the way, I have the same exact 2018 SG as you. Love the channel. Yeah, there's a couple things you can do to fix the sticky. The most extreme, of course, is you can sand the lacquer neck, which rock stars for years have done to Gibsons. I don't recommend that, but you can do it. When I talked to Ron Thorne, he was talking about using McGuire's Carnauba wax without pumice in it. That's important because you don't want anything that's abrasive. And you can put a little dab will do you, right? You just put a little dab on the cloth and you can put it on the finish of that and get it really slick, and that will help you too. The problem is it's a problem when you have a lacquer guitar, more so than anything else, polyurethane. When you have a lacquer guitar and it's getting sticky, sadly enough, what's causing it to get sticky is it's getting warm. That's what it is. Your hand is warming up the lacquer, and it gets sticky when it gets warm because it never truly hardens. So you know. And again, I'm keeping this very basic because I'm a very basic when it comes to finishes and what I know about finishes. But yeah, somebody says, stop sweating, no sticky. Exactly. That's really what it is. You gotta not sweat, and you gotta make sure that you not get the lacquer warm. But otherwise, you got to sand it, or you got to put something on it and that's what the Carnauba, I bet you that's what it's doing more than anything else, is it's reducing the friction so that it stays a little cooler and doesn't get as sticky. That would be my guess. It's a viscosity problem. That's what your problem is. So I know it's tough. Like I said, I'm very lucky because I have very dry hands, and so I don't have a whole lot of that problem. But sometimes, when it gets warm, it gets a little sticky. But it's also your hand and how you shape it. And my hand is pushed farther away from the neck. That, again, there's air to keep everything cool. Randy says, do you have any experience with the Fender Showmasters made in Korea 2004? Yeah, fantastic. They were made in the World Factory, same side by side with Schecters and all those guitars. Same concept. I don't know exactly why they did it, but in my brain, I'm like, Fender probably just went there and said, man, these Schecters are really good. Make us some of those. Put Fender headstocks on them. The Showmasters were killer. Strats. Only thing I didn't like about them is the bodies are a little small and the necks were a little small, which made it really cool, but not if you're a traditional kind of Fender person. Kind of felt, like the neck was a little too tiny. But man, if you like the smaller necks, they were killing it. So fantastic guitars, especially back then for the money. Back in 2004, those guitars were like $500, $499 for those. Woo, those were the days. I don't know. They probably more than that now used. Very cool. Set neck. Seymour Duncans. Very cool guitars. I like them. Mark says, hey, my new Tom Murphy R8 is arriving tomorrow. First Les Paul ever. That's a good way to start, man. I get my first car next week. It's a Lamborghini. Anyways, any advice on amps, etc.? I have the most fun with a tone. Money, not really an issue. It's great. Here's what I can tell you. I have the R9, and like I said, there's some things to love about those Gibson guitars, and there's some things not to love. What I will tell you is they do have the mojo of tone. It is crazy to me. I've owned, many Les Pauls, but the R9s, R8s, and R7s. ROs too, right? So the R9's the 59, R8's the 58, R7's the 57, RO's the 60. There is something about the pickups that the neck thickness, the R8's going to have a really thick neck, by the way. There's just something about that guitar when you plug it into an amp, any amp, it just sounds really huge and the amp really comes alive. So what's great is you can buy whatever amp you want. Normally I'm a fond believer when people say, hey, buy an expensive amp and a less expensive guitar. I'm a fond believer of that theory, right? Buying a nicer amp and a less expensive guitar. I think that's a great logic. Use that all day long. However, like I said, with the Gibson R series, these custom shops, I will tell you that, it doesn't really matter what you plug into. Your Katana is going to sound so much better because of the fact that they're just a very big sounding guitar. A lot of tone to them. So congratulations. It's a very, very cool guitar. I have a video on my R9 coming soon. Which is my joke now on the podcast, whether you realize or not. Every video is coming soon. Says David, advice for my first electric guitar that can last a lifetime. And he says, if possible. Well, it's definitely possible. Any guitar can last you a lifetime. Between $500,000 US, maybe a Player Tele or a PRS SE Custom 24. Any thoughts? I would go with the Player Tele over the SE Custom. Well, you want a lifetime guitar? Get a Player Tele. Get a Telecaster. Unless you hate Telecasters, then that one makes sense, would it? But it doesn't sound like you do because you're mentioning one. I think if you get a made in Mexico Telecaster, you can own that guitar forever. That better than lifetime. It's past your lifetime. I don't care if you're 15 years old. That Tele will be around for your grandchildren. I would get the Tele. If I was going to get a first guitar, there's a lot of great guitars. Like I said, we talk about it all the time. Schecter, LTD, the PRS SE series. There's just tons of great guitars out there. However, what's great about a Strat and a Tele from Fender made in Mexico is that's one of those guitars that you can get and then you're done, right? You're either one of two things is going to happen to you. You're going to get the Tele bug, and then you're going to need another Tele, and it's going to be a more expensive one. But that's not a need. That's just like this thing you're going to want if you want that. Or you're going to play that telly and go, I like it, or I don't like it. Either way, you want something different. There's no reason to get rid of that telly. That's what's great about a guitar like that. You just keep that. A telly is a guitar that it's just a great guitar to have. I would highly recommend a telly as a first good guitar for anyone. I don't think there's a downside to it. Yeah, a lot of people are going to say, love tellies. And then there's going to be 3 guys going, I hate tellies. And that's okay. Like I said, that's what's great. So, and then Bullets for Teeth says, don't underestimate Fender or Squier. There's some good stuff out there. Yeah, and so Squier is up there too. I don't have a problem recommending Squier, but he was saying Fender, so I just went that way. Yep, Reverend. See what I was talking about? This is what's great about having a community, but also why you can understand why these shows are fun for a lot of viewers, is that they go out there on the forums and they go, hey, I'm looking for a good guitar for $500, and they get 300 answers. And I understand why that gets confusing. And none of those answers, I don't say none, most of those answers are not wrong. That's the problem. What's a good pickup for $50? I don't know. Here's 50 of them. Pick. Matt says he's been eyeballing a Gibson Les Paul Tribute. Does the made in USA value justify the price difference of a high-end Epiphone? I also play upside down, so the used market doesn't always work out for me. Okay. Yeah, playing upside down's trouble. No. The Les Paul Tribute series, as you know, I'm a big fan of them, and I'm a big fan of the Epiphone series. I think the whole point of the Les Paul Tribute series is exactly that. You just want to buy this guitar that's made in USA. There's just a factor to this that's so strange to talk about, but it is a factor, okay? A made in China Epiphone is not likely to hold the same value point as a made in USA Les Paul, that even if that Les Paul is stripped down. Think about this. The Tribute's exactly that. They don't put a gloss finish on them. They downgrade a lot of the hardware. In fact, most of the hardware and components on those guitars are imported from somewhere. So it's not really, the same as the top tier Gibsons, yet it does have the Gibson branding, and it can say made in USA, which is really back to the Gibson branding again. Does that have cachet? Yeah, of course it does. That's an honest answer to that question that really you'd have to think about. What I would say to you is this. Of those 2 guitars, the honest question that I would ask yourself is, what value do you hold on those guitars? Is it important that the guitars say Gibson? Don't be ashamed of that. That's like, there's no shame in not valuing a brand, and there's no shame in valuing a brand. We're all different. You know what I mean? I like to use Eddie Van Halen as this perfect example. So many guitar players are huge fans of Eddie Van Halen. I'm, of course, one. And there's something about owning a guitar that Eddie Van Halen, the Eddie Van Halen guitars. There's just something about this, picking up the Stripe guitar and playing a chord on it, your favorite Van Halen song. There's the same thing. That emotional response is so important to all these things that we discuss this. The sanity thing is not important. In other words, logic doesn't make any sense here in the guitar community, in the musicians community. We're not in that part of our frame, of our mind. We're not in the practical mind. We're in the emotional mind, right? I find that sometimes there's nothing wrong, because I do it all the time, there's nothing wrong with having a practical discussion about the gear that we like and the music we like and the stuff we like. However, sometimes it's kind of like when you're talking about a girlfriend or a boyfriend and you have a fight and you're telling your friends about it and they try to stay in the practical part of their mind. They're like, oh, well, they weren't that great for you anyways. But deep down, you're like, I just want to call them, right? That's the mindset I like to stay in when I'm on the show. When you guys are asking these questions, it's, do you love this person and should you call them? Not, well, they didn't remember your birthday. How good of a person could they be? The same thing with guitars. I try to stay more on the emotional side and less on the practical side. In this case, I would definitely ask yourself, do you care about how the guitar feels and sounds? The Epiphone will do everything you need it to do. There's no down question. There's no down point to that. Or do you really want to just be able to say, hey, I own a Gibson, and there's no downside to that either? So that's what I would say to you. That's the question you have to ask yourself. The only thing I can tell you that helps you is that both guitars are totally fine, and you could tour the world with either one. Voodoo Fist says, any gear predictions for new guitars, amps, or pedals that we might see in 2022? Have you heard any rumors about anything cool coming your way next year? Yeah, but it's not fair anymore. At this point, let me tell you what's been going on. We're at the end of 2021. Hey, I know the year. Knowing the day is just impossible for me anymore, but knowing the year is good. I feel like I won if I know what year it is. 2021. So towards the end of 2021. So during the last year and a half, let me tell you what I've been doing that you guys don't know about. It's okay to start talking about this stuff now. I've been mentioning a lot on the shows over the last year and a half. NDA, non-disclosure. Well, there's been something going on, and it just so happened to work like this. A lot of companies, as you know, develop a lot of products, and how they do that is they ship those products to artists who then play in front of people and then give them feedback like, hey, the guitar was top heavy, the guitar stayed out of tune, the amp exploded on stage, that's not good. The pedal knob shot off and hit a viewer or somebody in the audience in the eye. You know what I mean? They give them feedback. Well, there was nobody touring or playing. So I ended up working with a lot of companies in the development side of things, helping with products to be developed for the next year or two. Makes perfect sense. What a perfect substitute for if you can't get an artist to do their thing. You could get a YouTube channel reviewer with a ton of experience to go through products and give you some stuff. That being said, I've been exposed to a lot of products that I know are coming out next year. So I'm telling you this one is what sucks is normally to answer your question, which I've done over and over again over the last few years. And Voodoo Fist, you super chatting me $20, and that's why I'm giving you this honest assessment of this. I don't know why I keep saying honest today. It's something in my head. So the rumors, I don't have rumors. I have actual information. Like I can tell you multiple products that are coming out. What I can't do is tell you what they are because I have NDAs. So let me tell you something I can't tell you, but I can insinuate. I'm trying to how to word these. Let's see what I got for you guys. There's a guitar. Here's one. Let's see if you guys can figure it out. I don't care. Let's see if you guys figure it out. There's a guitar that is really, 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 really doing well and expensive. And everybody's like, why don't they make the import version of it? Well, that will be in January. There's a lot of that. They're doing a lot of stuff. There's a lot of companies ramping up for January right now for next year. So there's a lot of cool stuff. I will tell you in January, there won't be a NAMM show, but there will be some really cool product releases. That's for sure. Especially because you got to understand, not only is there a lot of companies that have been developing stuff that will be releasing in January, February next year, but you got to understand a lot of stuff that was supposed to be coming out over these last year and a half, 2 years, they've been holding back because they didn't have production ramped up to do these products because they've been just trying to keep production, under control of what they had already ordered. So there's a lot of new products next year. So unfortunately, all the ones I know of, which is a good amount, I've worked with in some way, so they have me locked down in some way or another, not to tell you exactly what it is. So there you go. But the good news is, Voodoo Fist, there's cool stuff coming because I've seen some of it and played some of it. And maybe accidentally let it in the background of one of my videos once. I think that happened once or twice. Like it was just in the corner of a video for a second. I was like, whoops. Let's do this. We're at an hour and 20 minutes in. Let's do the giveaway. Let's do that. I like this because you guys, 1,000 of you watching right now, check this out. Guess who reached out and talked to me? Actually, I reached out to them. As you guys know, if you watch my videos at all, this week I did an orange amp. I did the Orange Crush 120. I'd like to point out, I love this so much. You guys are so great. A lot of you guys liked the video and said a lot of great things. A lot of you were like, hey, why are you reviewing the Orange 120 when the new 100 comes out? Well, that's why I did it. Because I don't know if I'm going to review the 100. I don't have a relationship with Orange, so, I'll see if I can get one through other means. However, I have no reference of the 120 or any of the Crush amps, so telling me the new one's better, which is what everybody said in that video, but the new one's better, I wouldn't know that. So I made sure I reviewed the Crush 120, and that's why I reviewed that. Plus, not to mention, as the new one comes out, dude, the 120s you can score really good deals on. So it'll be, so now you know I liked it and it was cool. And if you want to get one out there and at a deal, get one out there at a deal. So American Music Supply, when I was talking to Greg at AMS, he was like, hey, let's do something else cool. And I said, okay. So down in the link down below, there's a contest. You go, it's to AMS. We're going to give away this pedal. You guys may not know what this is. This thing is freaking killer. This is the Simplifier DLX. This is going to make any of you that have a problem with knobs have a heart attack. There's a lot of knobs on this. Just looking at it, now here's what's funny about this. Ready? It even has a separate foot switch for this. The best, I watched a bunch of videos. The best one I would definitely recommend is the one that Andersons did, where him and Pete, Captain and Pete, go through it. What this essentially is everything that the HX Stomp is. Okay, so don't think of it as confusing knobs. I promise it's not confusing at all. It's basically got delay, reverb, preamps, cab simulations. What this is an analog version of essentially what the Helix or the HX Stomp is. Okay. Not Stomp. Is that right? Yeah, the HX Stomp. So in other words, if you want to do direct recording or use this on your pedal board as your interface to the PA systems, all that stuff, that's what this is. But analog-wise, obviously, if this scares you with a lot of knobs, imagine the screen and all the scrolling you would have to do. This, you can just turn knobs and do stuff. And like I said, when you start looking at it, you kind of start seeing it quadrants. They even use different knobs. So very, very cool. So these are about $450, $500. This one they're going to give away. We're going to give it away next week on the show. So go ahead and enter. Unfortunately, you have to be in the US for that. But don't worry, the next product I'm going to give away at the end of the show will be international. So we can do that. So he says, I'm confused. Wow. Look, man, you have a whole week to figure out if you want this thing before you enter. So you can enter to win it. Again, what's great is I want to do more of these giveaways. The giveaways on the channel are really straightforward for this, for the live shows. For the live shows, the podcast only, here's the giveaway deal. It works exactly like this. I don't get paid for the giveaway, and I don't get any free gear for the giveaway. This is just for you guys. So like I said, I want to be very clear as this icon properly, I can't even point to it, but somewhere in front of me is a fan-funded icon. I guess, look at that. Right, look at that right there somewhere. Okay. The podcast is sponsored by the patrons. There's 460 patrons that sponsor this show. I appreciate them very much. And that had led me to not doing any kind of stuff like this for a long time. And then finally one of the patrons said, well, why don't you just, do it to help, help the viewers, do something for the fans. Although I wouldn't, viewers, not fans. And so we're doing that. Thank you, Greg and AMS. This is pretty cool. Like I said, Simplifier. It is Simple Fire. So, but there you go. The link down below to do that. Like I said, the other product will give away towards the end of the show, and I'll pick that winner in real time. And that can be international, by the way, that one. So I know you guys keep saying, hey, but no shipping outside the U.S. I'm working on that. We'll get there. Like I said, I can't guarantee all of them will be international, but I promise you at least every couple will make sure everyone gets included. So, questions. What are questions? Oh, yeah. Okay. New guitar day. This is a question. It says, just got my Gibson standard 50s gold top to keep my standard 60s burst company off Reverb. All the guitar plus joy at $800 off retail. You convinced me to buy used. Now I do need an SG. Yeah, buying used is a great way to save money. Obviously, calling and asking for discounts, talking to people. A lot of you guys keep... that's probably the most thing I get the most comments from you guys is, hey, you told me to call and talk to somebody, and I did, and I get a good deal. And it doesn't matter who. It's not attached to any particular brand. By the way, AMS said, happy to support the channel. Thank you, guys. American Music Supply. What's great is exactly that, like American Music Supply. Same thing. Call and talk to somebody. Call and talk to people is the best way to do anything. It's so weird that that's the way we did everything forever. And then all of a sudden it's like email only, internet only, but definitely talk to somebody. It's always a good idea to do that. And like I said, I always tell you guys that, even though I remind you over and over again that if you click links and stuff, that supports the channel. But I tell you, keep your money, right? It's your money, you keep it. So I get all this magical YouTube money that comes through the internet, apparently. It is magical. Surf the Jap Strat says, Phil, have you ever tried a Zinke era Fender amplifiers? Of course. We talked about the ProSonic last week. That was one of them. It says, in particular, I own the Fender ProSonic. Says, which I find to be a fantastic amp, completely different vibe than most Fenders. Absolutely. We talked about it last week. And what we talked about was that it has more gain. It's like a Soldano. It has a very Soldano high gain vibe to it. There's a used one on my Craigslist, but like I said, it's the head. If I ever got one, I'd want the head. The problem is head, no reverb, combo reverb, and what I want doesn't exist. I want the head, but I want the reverb. So I don't know. Maybe I should get the combo and put it on top of a cabinet. Okay. So this is Grumpy Mike Guitar said this will be interesting. For the tone jar, and why not? He says, thanks to you, I'm probably going to buy an MT15. I don't think I should get the blame for that. And that Tremonti interview, that was Tremonti. Mark was that was amazing. I'll tell you guys a not funny story, but a funny thought on that in a second. Tremonti amp. Don't need it. Oh, of course, we don't just want it. It's a good sickness, right? It's better than anything else. This is the best. If you're going to be addicted to something, this is the thing to be addicted to. And if it's not, well, then I promise you we'll slowly change the channel to Gear's Anonymous. We'll have a weekly meeting about that. So you guys know I have more of those videos coming out. I did the video with Mark Tremonti this week. And of course I did Doug Pennick the week before that. Sammy Bowler will be next week. I don't know if he'll go up next week, but I'm talking to him. And then there's a line of artists that we'll probably be doing at some point in this gear-themed QAs. Tremonti was funny. Here's why it was funny interaction. The original interview, it was edited a little bit because the original way when we connected through Zoom, as soon as we connected, he saw my Bogner and he got excited. And he's like, oh, you have a Bogner. And then we just started talking and I didn't hit record yet. And then at some point in the conversation, I'm like, oh, I got to hit record. And then I hit record. And then the way the recording starts, I go, and then we'll get back to that. And then it was a weird start. So I had to kind of edit it a little bit so that the start was fine. And that just really tells you how we're all the same. We're all these musicians who just love our amps and guitars and pedals, because he didn't even wait for the interview to officially start. He just went into it because he's like us. He's like, oh, that's something cool. Let's talk about that. And then I started talking about his amps and he started talking about the amps, and it was really, really cool. Don't feel bad. Yeah, I bought an MT15. It actually showed up today. So I had an MT15 and as you guys know, I ended up letting go for my Archon. Even though, like I said in that video, I go, they're really close. But at that point, I was like, I already have the Archon. Do I really need another amp? And then through a long, transition of years, I got rid of the Archon. And when I was talking to Mark, like you guys, I was like, I really need an MT15, especially since I played the new one with the 5881s. And I was like, man, it sounds a lot better. I was like, I should do that. And then after the end of the interview, I was like, my buddy Joe, who you guys probably know, he was on the Sam Ash video I did years ago. I text Joe and I said, Joe, I'm thinking about getting an MT15. Do you still have yours? Because he's the ones I played with, the 5881s. And he goes, yeah. And I said, I think I want to get one. And he goes, you don't need one. You got enough amps to cover that sound. And I go, I know. And then I swear this is true. 10 minutes later, he gets a text and it goes, yeah, I just bought it. So you know what? I'm just telling you guys that if you guys end up buying one, just don't feel bad. I did it too. And so you actually, even to give you, so you know how bad our sickness is, I actually sent an email to Gene at PRS and I said, hey, because she didn't know I interviewed Tremonti. Tremonti's manager is the one who hooked it up. That had nothing to do with PRS. And so, or any, manufacturers. I emailed her and I sent her a link to the interview and I said, oh, I did a video with Tremonti. I said, hey, if you have any MT15s, I'd like one. That was on Friday. she said, okay, when I get back to the office on Monday, I'll let you know. And on Monday morning, I sent her a text or an email, and I said, hi, Gene, thanks. I go, don't worry, I bought one on the weekend. So yeah. It's funny how you have a shame, right? I have like a shame tone. Like, I can't believe I bought it, but there's worse things to do. There's worse things to do with your money and your time, I think. Okay. So, Grumpy Mike, what I'm telling you is if you do, you're in good company. Yeah, there you go. MT100. Everybody kept asking, when does it come out? I got the vibe. It's supposed to come out early next year. That's the vibe I got. Obviously, I can tell you this very clearly because, like I said, that interview was not orchestrated or connected in any way through PRS. When I sent them a link to the video, of course, to Jean and stuff, she responded with, she's like, oh, that was really fun. I enjoyed your video. And then she basically said, oh, I'm sure the guys at PRS are not going to be super excited that he started talking about all this stuff. Because I'm sure it's like, hey, we're not ready with this yet. But from the overall conversation with Mark, I got the vibe it was happening sooner than later is what I got. So we'll see. There you go. Okay. So let me get back to work. Smilly Cats Jazz says, are you able to talk about the KYG Kiesel thin line, timeline, not the thin line. I could use a Strat with a nice heel to put a drop C, but I need to recover from the holidays. Okay. So what happens to me now, and I'm not upset by any means, you guys are awesome, I release information to the patrons first, of course, like all these channels. We all do the same thing. Patrons support the channel with financially that way. Like I said, you guys all support the channel by watching. I appreciate that just as much. It all has a very important weight to the overall performance of what you do here, right? But of course, I send them and discuss with them certain things that are just not ready to be for mass consumption yet. And like we did the Zither limited stands, I talked about we're going to be doing a limited run of pedals, a limited run of guitars, a limited run of amps. There's going to be a bunch of KYG limited runs, and all of them in the same vein of concept, which is they're not signature products. They're not my guitar. They're not my pedal. There are things that you could normally buy packaged uniquely without an upcharge or in some cases a discount. The concept is like kind of like a group buy, like, hey, if you ever wanted one like this, I'll make sure that, or not make sure, I can make it happen. So yeah, at this point, it's probably still too soon. That's why I don't want to talk about it too much. So Cosnick is saying Kiesel Delos. Yes. So if you guys know, obviously, we've talked about my Fender Custom Shop Strat for many years, and the fact that it's a crazy expensive guitar if you want one now. I've had viewers over the years tell me like, hey, I went and talked to my Fender Custom Shop dealer and they want $7,000 for your Custom Shop Strat. I think that's what it costs now, because you have to have one master built if you want the specs and exactly like mine. Mine is not a master built Custom Shop Strat. Mine was a team built. But as I've pointed out many times, when we had that built, I had the store, we were a custom shop dealer, and we had them build a bunch of these in different colors, spec'd out exactly like we wanted. And so Fender gave us this deal, and I think that Street at that time we could sell those for like $2,500. Those days are long gone, of course. And so, long story short, I've talked to many companies over the years about something I think as simple as, hey, have you ever thought about adding the, I have this Copper Strat, it's spec'd out this way. Can we duplicate that? Not as a signature guitar, but as if you guys want that. And I'll tell you a funny story that's funny about that guitar is it's called the Copper Strat. It's not copper. That's the funny story. That's it. That's the end of that's it. Next question. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's called the Copper Strat. The color is not copper. When Fender made that guitar, the prototype of the Copper Strat for the things, they sent me a sample. And I thought it was pink, and I go, that's horrible. And they go, that's copper. And I go, that's not copper. I live in the copper state. Like Arizona's the copper state. That's why I wanted it, right? The copper star and the Arizona flag, copper. I said, like the copper star. And they said, well, that's brown. I said, well, no, that's copper. This is, again, everybody's going to have different opinions about this. The importance is we had to make it a different color to make it the color it is. So why that's funny is is that when I talked to Kiesel, they understood what I was saying, and they got the color right. So what's going on with the Kiesel guitars is there's no signature guitar. This is important to mention. We are going to do a limited run of them, but it's not limited like the stands. You can buy this Delos whenever it's ready, right? We still have to get to all the where, we're getting towards the end of this where it'll be ready. What it is if you want a Delos Strat, we'll have an option package that you can get that's just like mine. You can just do whatever you want with it. You can go, okay, I want that color, but I don't want his configuration of pickups and stuff. I don't want this neck. I want this thing. I want that. You can just do whatever you want, just like any Kiesel. You just order it any way you want. All I did is said, hey, will you duplicate this guitar for me in feature set? I really like my Delos. Can you make your, these options available? So they'll add those options. What I don't know is if the options will be a new thing that they'll have from now on, or if they'll just offer those options for a limited time to anyone who wants them. And what we're discussing, which has not been 100% confirmed, which is why he's mentioning, is I said I was trying to get them to confirm with me making like 10 of them at a better price point. In other words, not having upcharges and stuff like that if you want to change things. So that's what we're working on. So that's what it is. But that's the great thing is we're going to be doing this over and over again. And now I can talk about it because it is in motion. Like they are building it. They have spec'd out the guitar. They are building it. It's probably maybe even built. I don't know. They just haven't shipped it out to me yet. Or if it's not built, it's towards the end of its cycle because it's been that time frame. So it's okay to start talking about stuff like that. So that's it. Again, it's mostly for fun. You know what I mean? This whole thing to make some fun stuff. But mostly for me, it was every time, like I just did a video the other day that you guys haven't seen yet, but I'm playing my Copper Strat. Every time I play the Copper Strat, just like a lot of stuff, just like all the YouTubers, just like when Pete Thorne plays a guitar and all of a sudden I want that guitar, just like all of you guys, or Mark Tremonti talks about his amp and we all want his amp. Not all of us, but you understand. That guitar always gets me a little nervous because, like I said, you can't get it. Not that Strat, not in those specifications. You can get all kinds of versions from Fender, but not that version. Eddie says, Phil, I bought a quilter because of you. Love it. Thanks. Yeah, see, it's great. Like I said, I like the fact that we're all. It's really, to be honest with you, it's like every week a bunch of addicts are all hanging out talking with no supervision. That's what really, what's the Know Your Gear show? It's this show where a bunch of addicts all have no supervision and talk to each other and think that's a great idea. Led by a bigger addict who then tells everybody how good their decisions are. Because, all right, Patient Zero says, hey, Phil, my new Strat's high E saddle is all the way down and the action is still high for my taste and the neck is fine. Any suggestions? Lower it? ? Well, if you can't lower it because it's all the way down. Somebody was asking me about this question earlier. I caught it, but I couldn't respond to it yet, which was somebody was saying they were looking at a used guitar and they said they shimmed the neck because the saddles were bottom out and the action was still too high. In your case, you have your Strat, new Strat. I don't know if you're saying it's new to you or if it's a new Strat, new Strat. If it has a micro tilt, that's what that will fix. You can use the micro tilt on the Strat to adjust that. If it doesn't have it, don't worry about it. You can shim it. A piece of sandpaper will take you a million miles. You'll be fine. I would shim the neck. That would actually fix the problem, and you should be able to adjust the saddle up, or leave the saddle the way it is, and the action will adjust. But that's what I would do. Just shim it. Super easy. Gonfall says, what makes a guitar not fixable? Money. That's what does. In my experience over the years of fixing the guitars, my limitations have always been the money, more so than anything else. Which is, this is what it's going to cost to do it. And then they go, no. So I think a guitar can pretty much, look, I think at this point, I've seen master luthiers, literally master luthiers, do things like, they could take a guitar that's disintegrated to dust almost and bring it back to life. At some point, you can bring something back. That's extreme, so let's not go there. Let's just say for the most part, most guitars can be refinished. Guitars can be, fixed and repaired all day long. Twisted necks get a little tough. That's a tough one. That's almost a hard one to get past. But in most cases, it's money. Money is the problem because it's a cost thing, obviously, just like anything else. Do you want to pay $1,000 to fix a $300 guitar? Do you want to pay $10,000 to fix a $2,000 guitar? That's what makes guitars usually not fixable, which is why I love YouTube, because now when those unfixable guitars come up, you guys who are, savvy can learn to fix them and fix them. Some people have more money than time. Some people have more time than money. If you are the latter, you have more time than money. Sometimes that's where you can win. You could take a problem that somebody's not willing to give their money for, and you can use your time to fix it. So, Ran K says, Phil, I bought a Ford pickup truck. Thanks for your recommendation. If there's one thing I could tell you, I would not recommend that. And it's not a Ford Chevy thing. I'm not really big on American cars for a ton of reasons you would never want to know about. Christopher Jones says, my wife, Gina, is buying me a Players Plus. Not secretly, of course. Humbucker single Strat from musician's friend. Any opinions or something to look out upon receipt? She says hi. Yeah, buy it from American Music Supply because they're giving away a cool pedal today. On that note, some things to look out upon receipt. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty easy thing. You do the visual inspection, you go through and make sure the fit and finish is good. Right now, I would definitely, if you're buying anything from anyone, Fender, Gibson, Schecter, anything, I would definitely take the extra time to go through it and look at a guitar right now. There's a lot of stuff. We've talked about this. COVID has created a huge demand and, of course, a real burden on resources, not only finite resources, but also human resources. And some things are slipping through, and you can see that. So, yeah, you want to do that. There is on the, if you go to the Blackstock website under the downloadable PDFs, there's a Strat inspection form that I have that you can download for free, and it'll just give you all the tips. And there's a video how to inspect a Strat. That video is me walking through it. That video I did on how to do electric. I did acoustic. I did a Gibson Les Paul. I did those videos based on not even my repair knowledge. That was just years of, like I said, when you take guitars on trade, what were we looking for? When we got guitars from manufacturers, what were we looking for? Everybody has a different opinion on what you should look for. I based my sheets and my opinions on the fact that I owned the store and every bad decision affected me financially hard. You know what I mean? Buying a guitar that was bad, you eat it. You know what I mean? That's what you do when you're a business. Every bad decision you eat, every sour, crappy bit of it, because of the fact that you can't pass it on to your customers, so I started developing like, okay, this is what I'm looking for in a sheet, not because I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I just realized as any person, if you have a checklist, you tend to not make as many mistakes. I found in my experience of doing that, and I've said this obviously many times too, and it's very important. Sometimes, again, when we talked about earlier about your, pragmatic kind of mindset versus this emotional mindset, sometimes somebody would trade something in, and again, it's for the business, and I would get excited, whether I was just excited as a guitar player to see that guitar come in the store, or excited like, man, we're going to flip that so fast and make a lot of money. And in that emotional state, you stop paying attention to the important things. So I was like, how do I keep myself in this practical mindset when I'm emotional? And so, and that's why I made those sheets. So I would definitely do that and see if that helps. Like I said, that's why I did those videos too. Hopefully it helps you a little bit. It helped me. So I just figured it might have a shot. Seth says, Phil, thanks for doing the show. It's great to way to unwind after work week. I love the content in the community. Man, I love I love that you love the content, and I love the community, and I appreciate that. It's like I said, this show morphed over time. It was this thing I was doing, and to me, it was like, okay, they're asking questions. Let's just talk every week. And now it's like I said, it's It's nice. It's nice to end the week, with hanging out with guitar people. So I'm glad you guys like it. I like it too. Mike says, hey, Phil, any way to darken the sound of my parts cat? Oh, we already did, Mike's. We did it out of order. Jeff says, looking for presents to add to my wish list. What? I have lots of guitar tools, screwdriver, Allen wrenches, etc., but nothing for socket parts, pots, tuning keys, etc. You use anything specific, guitar-specific set? Sure. Well, I use the socket set from Stu Mac, the socket drivers. I have a regular socket set as well. It's a Husky set. I think that's Home Depot's brand that I've had forever. That works. I have nothing really special. I use the socket drivers from Stu Mac for no particular reason than it's just easy to grab. You tend to find that you need two sizes, one for the output jack and one for the tuning keys, and that's pretty much the two sockets you're going to be doing all the time, besides maybe the ones on the actual potentiometers, which is usually the same one as the output jack. Is that right? I think that's right. So even though they have three, that's what makes me laugh. I have three of the socket drivers from Stu Mac. I only use two. If you ever look at my videos, you'll see them behind me. You can see if you look real close, I wrote in Sharpie on them, which one says output, one says tuning key. So that's it. It's just dumbed down process for ease and stuff. But other than that, no. I mean, like I said, you don't need a whole lot of tools. If you're just doing setups and stuff, it's really not a lot of tools that you need. Some basic tools, and then just get familiar with them in every way. That will help you more than anything else. A Shinnery Kid says, I got to use Victory Sheriff 22. Absolutely love it. This is the Marshall I have had in my head forever. Yeah, like I said, I always say this and I kind of feel bad, but I feel like everybody does Marshall better than Marshall now when it comes to volume. When it comes to making volume that we can tolerate. I did a review of the Sheriff 22. It was one of those good amps I liked from the Marshall Tone guys. The Tone box, I should say, of Marshall. I don't know why I'm saying it this way. And like I said, I own a Marshall. I own two. I got rid of all my Marshall 20-watt heads. I got rid of all of them. To me, I use the Pedal Pal 800 and the Pedal Pal Plexi, and I run that through and everything, and I love those. But I still have my Marshall JMP 2061, which is a 20-watt style Plexi, and I still have a Marshall 50-watt Plexi that I absolutely don't use. In fact, right now it's sitting behind another amp. Why? I don't know. I bought it and I have it, and then I don't use it. It's just too freaking loud, and I spend all my time kind of making sure it's, we're using a black box in the back or an attenuator. So yeah, it's funny. I wish Marshall would really kind of dive into the lunchbox craze. I think Marshall would kill. I think all these guys would die in a second. I've told every company I've ever talked to about this that does a Marshall, whether it's Dave Friedman or it's the Victory Sheriff or I don't know, anybody Marshall in the box. I tell them all the same thing. They're one amp away from going out of business. In other words, all Marshall's got to do is make the amp that we all want, which is essentially a Marshall that we can tame the volume down and get the Marshall tone without cranking it. And although I reviewed the Silver Jubilee, the 20-watt, and the 800 20-watt, I never reviewed the Plexi style 20-watt, but same issue, if not worse than the other two, which sounds great. Quality's great. I liked everything about it, except for the fact that, like I said, you still had to use an attenuator to get them to, excuse me, you had to use an attenuator to get them to sound good at lower volumes. And then that defeated the whole purpose of why have a smaller amp. What you need to get those amps to sound good, that's not what we want. We want to just plug them in and play. So that's just my thought. But there's, I don't know. I don't give up hope yet. Marshall will eventually make the amp we want. I have a feeling. Or they won't. I don't know. Maybe they'll sell Bluetooth speakers and headphones. I was just thinking of Marshall this week. I was watching Adam Carolla's podcast on YouTube. He has like my podcast. He puts it out and then he has a video of it. And he's sponsored by Marshall, and it's the headphones and the Bluetooth speakers. And he was talking about it. And I was watching. Ann Heche was on the show. If you don't know who Ann Heche is, well, probably makes sense because it's a bunch of guitar players. Anyways, what was funny was watching Adam Carolla, Ann Heche, and a bunch of other people, and he goes, today's sponsor is Marshall. They make fantastic Bluetooth speakers and headphones. And then all of them are like, yeah, they make guitar amps. I mean, of course they would make great headphones and Bluetooth speakers. And they're like, yeah. And it was a bunch of people who were a bunch of non-guitar players talking. And I was exactly what Marshall's hoping for, which is like, yeah, I mean, if rock stars trust Marshalls on stage, why wouldn't we trust them to make Bluetooth speakers? I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit when I was watching it. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is them. Marshall. They sell Bluetooth speakers to Ann Heche. And that's the end of it for me. So, oh well. Yeah. Well, here, Brian says, I want a 15 to 10 watt JCM 800. Well, they made the 20 watt that switches down to 5 watts. Here's the real sad thing for Marshall. They made the perfect amps. Okay. Somebody says, Ellen DeGeneres' ex-wife. Yes, that Ann Heche. Remember when they made the Marshall 1 watt series, the real ones, the anniversaries that were, you know, at that time, I think they were like $700 a pop. And they made the JCM 2000. They made the 800. They made the Plexi. They made the JTM 45. So JMP, JTM. What am I missing? Oh, and the what's the new one? Why can't I think of it? JVM, right? And they were killer. They were amazing. Everybody loved them. That's why they're all $1,000 used now, minimum. Crazy. And the only complaint everyone had, only one, was that was a lot of money for 1 watt, right? It was like, you know, $800 for a 1 watt amp back then. You know, this is 5 years ago, right? That was a lot of money for 1 watt. They were made in the UK. They were great. Ultimately, all they had to do was bump that form factor up to 5 watts, maybe 10, put out all 5 again. I don't even care if they don't make them in UK. That would have done it. But instead, they didn't do anything with that series. It just died off. If you guys recall, they came out, finally they took the JCM 2000, which is the DSLs, and they made a 1 watt import version of that. And I did a review of that. And of course, I didn't love it in the review. And the reason I didn't love it was because, like I said, one of the cool things about Marshalls is they're great pedal platforms. And they literally took the gain control off the clean channel so you couldn't use it with a pedal. It was too thin. The E-Man, I don't know, the E-Man says, I love the DSL-40. Granted, I agree. DSL-40, great amp. It's a fantastic amp. The DSL series as a whole, for the price point, is fantastic. And they need to be able to do the DSL. The difference between the DSL-20 head and the DSL-40 is, and these $1,300 studio amps that they made, you can play the DSLs at a lower volume. I get it. You know, I mean, I get why they want to still be loud, but yeah, Magic Man says power scaling is not the same as a full attenuator. Well, think of this. I hate both. That's very clear. I have no desire to attenuate an amp or to have a power scale down. Those are the things like you guys that most of us do to do that. Really what you want is the amp to sound good at any volume. That's really the magic, or if you can do that. And it's a very tough thing to do, but Richard Pierce says, I love my Marshall Plexi 50 watt. Me too. Just no one else in my neighborhood does. So again, you know, I love these discussions because I think at the core of it, I think what the takeaway is that there's a lot of Marshall fans here, and we would like to see more products from Marshall that maybe fit our needs. It's not like, you know, it's weird. I think Fender does a much better job at giving guitar players what they're looking for, more so than Marshall. And I really believe this. I think it's because Marshall's preoccupied with weirder things. So, yeah, Floopity Doo says the Dirty Shirley works for me. I agree. Dirty Shirley Mini to me is Marshall as anything comes. It gets that tone I love. Yeah, Cowtown's talking about the Class 5, the Marshall Class 5. That was another cool amp. You know, the sad thing is the Class 5, you said you have the Class 5 Marshall amp. You didn't say if you had the head or combo. The combo, though. See, I like the head form factor of the Class 5. The weird thing is, man, the combo is much better than the head because the combo had that cool feature where you could do headphone, you know, and you could flip that switch, and then it's like it made the amp get more, you know, distorted at lower volumes, but the 5-watt head wouldn't do it. So that was one of the downfalls. Mac says, "Hey Phil, hate the neck pickup in my Harley Benton. Hollow body. I guess it's hollow body, single cut, custom. I'm gonna say yes. That's what it is. I think Harley Benton. Hollow body, single cut, custom. Should I replace it or just unplug and just use my bridge pickup? Well, no, you replace it. If you don't like it, replace it. It's easy enough. You know, if you use it, then you need to use it. So I would replace it with something you like. Otherwise, what's probably going to happen is if you don't replace it or you don't find a way to love that sound in some way, you'll probably use the guitar less and less, and then you'll get rid of the guitar. So either, like I said, come to that conclusion and get rid of the guitar and move on and get something else, or fix it and make it sound the way you want. And then, hold on. That's funny. Chris Puckett wants to help. Just kidding. He's like, he wants to do a shout out to Guitar Center in Westlake, Ohio for the great deal on the Boss Katana speaker cabinet. So shout out to those guys. Actually, you know what? That's really cool that you did that. It's always cool. Like I said, I'm the first to always admit I bash on the Guitar Center guys pretty heavy. Not nearly as bad as a lot of times they probably deserve as a whole. Like I said, I've had very few bad experiences with employees. I really like the Guitar Center employees, but Guitar Center is a chain. So it's always good when you hear good stuff. Like I said, you know, they and it's so shout out to the Westlake, Ohio Guitar Center. Good job. The next one says, "Hey Phil, do you read all the comments?" No. Your community is hilarious. Like really funny, get together, local bar, restaurant. Love it. I do get to read a lot of the comments later when I index this stuff. You know what I mean? It's going by pretty fast, but obviously there's no way I can read anything when I'm, in fact, like I said, I think I've kind of explained this over and over again. I'm not in a screen to even see you guys 90% of the time. That's why a lot of times you're like, "Do you see my comment?" I'm like, "No, I'm in a different screen. I have screens I toggle between." The reason is because I toggle to this other screen because of the fact I've told you guys when you guys are commenting, sometimes when I'm talking, I'll start reading your comment and then I get a little sidetracked. Which, speaking of sidetracked, let's do a giveaway. So as you guys know, we're giving away 10 guitar crates from Guitar Crate. TJ, one of the owners of Guitar Crate, is willing to do this. We did last week. We did the $100 Guitar Crate. I guess we have another big one coming up soon where we're going to give away a pedal from Guitar Crate. Today we're going to give away a $45 Guitar Crate. However, here's the cool part. There's a part. It's cool. Hold on. I need to look at my phone because he sent me a message, and I know. Okay. Okay, so basically, what he wanted me to know is that even though they don't do a whole lot of international sales, and it's not their focus at this point, because again, they're a small company, how they are willing that if you're international, they will ship one out to you. So what I'm telling you is that everybody can enter to win this Guitar Crate I'm going to give away right now. And a Guitar Crate is basically a $45 accessory pack of strings, picks, sometimes a capo, sometimes a tuner, sometimes other cool stuff. So we'll do something cool. So here's what we should do. How should we give away this one? Last week we did the string question, right? Today we will do... This is going to be great or horrible depending on how well you watch this channel. I'm going to pick the first person that answers this question accurately. What did Mark Tremonti in my interview, what did Mark Tremonti say was the biggest transformer he had in one of his amps besides his new amp coming out? What amp? I don't need the exact model. I just need the brand. What brand had the biggest transformer of all his amps? The first one to answer that with the correct brand wins a $45 accessory pack from Guitar Crate. And I have to pay attention. And again, it has to be the brand, not the model. It's not Optimus Prime. Oh! It's so close. Matt Harrison, you were close, but that's not it. Cornish is a pastry. There it is. Okay, I want to make sure that I don't see it. And again, like I said, guys, remember I do this all ad hoc at whim. So if I miss something, please be forgiving as I try to be accurate. I think I can see who's the first person. I just want to make sure that it is accurate, actually who I think it is. Okay, so the first person I saw that said Cornford is Fret Level Midnight. And please, let's see. I'm pretty sure that's right. And again, let's double check. I'm double checking. I'm doing my due diligence so we do the right thing. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I didn't see it before that. You are funny, guys. You guys are funny. Okay, so Fret Level Midnight. Yes, I do see it. You're the one I saw first. So yes, Cornford is the correct amplifier when he showed me the Cornford amp. What I liked about that in the video is he got so excited to show me that transformer that he picks up his laptop and he walks over to show it to me. If you pay attention, in the background is his amp. Is the MT100. Now, that wouldn't be a big deal. It's actually not a big deal because he's already leaked a picture of it, or a picture got leaked of the new Tremonti amp. But it was funny when he did it. I was like, my first reaction was, you can't see my face because the way the Zoom, screen toggles when people are talking. But my face was like, uh-oh. And I was like, and I didn't know if it was going to, I go, oh no, everybody's going to see the new prototype. But yeah, so when we're talking about transformers, he said the biggest transformer he has in an amp is his Cornford. Fret Level Midnight, you just won a $45 accessory pack to Guitar Crate. I feel like I need an announcer. What did he win, Bob? Well, Phil, let me tell you, he won an all expenses paid trip to changing the strings on his guitar. Good for him. Okay, Fret Level Midnight, you know what to do. You just email me at pmcknight7, so I have your address and stuff. I'll send that to TJ, and he'll get that sent out. Again, if you guys can support some of these companies like American Music Supply for giving away $500 pedals, and for Guitar Crate for giving away hundreds of dollars worth of guitar crates when they're a small company. If you find a use for these companies, please use them, right? Like I said, they're here not only to be part of the community, but actually that's why they're here. They're here to be part of the community. These people, like I said, American Music Supply was in the comments earlier. They're in there hanging out. They're talking to us. You've seen Greg and those guys before. TJ, they hang out. And they're here. They're us. It's just fun. And then on that note, I'm pretty sure there's probably one super chat I missed. Let me see if I can grab a last one of the day. Hey, this is going to be easy. Christopher just said, thanks for being you. I don't know how to be anyone else. That sounds corny, I guess, right? It was corny. There you go. That's what's going on for that. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Music Therapy Lad says he's in love with the white Parker Fly. So was I. So am I. And I appreciate that. As always, I want to thank all of you for hanging out this Friday. As I know you sure have other cooler things to do. I appreciate you guys hanging with me. And till next Friday. Oh, the big announcement again, just to reiterate over and over again. Starting next Friday, I think next Friday is I don't know. What is next Friday? Like, obviously, I have a calendar and I'm not using it. What's the important part of this? Next Friday is the 12th. We, for the first time in the show's history, is not going to change. Ours is going to change. In other words, we will through 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Time next Friday. Nothing changes. We are officially now 3 o'clock Pacific Time year round. Even though Arizona doesn't participate in daylight savings, I decided to make things easier for everyone involved. This show is just 3 o'clock Pacific Time. All 12 months of the year, all 52 episodes. It's just the same. So nothing changes. So don't worry next week if nothing changes. I know usually whenever we have the first episode after daylight savings, it's usually a disaster. So hopefully we won't have to worry. Joe says, like before you leave. I'd appreciate that if you like the button, because I don't know. It makes me feel good. I appreciate that. All right, guys, on that note, I'm going to let you go. Till next Friday, thank you so much for your time. Till next week, know your gear.